So today we're discussing everything about property when it comes to marriage, before,
during, and after marriage.
After marriage. Ladies have this in Luganda say sende chikazi. You want to have sende chikazi. Welcome back, guys. After a long commercial break from the Ekimas, we are back finally.
You are welcome back to another episode of Forever Together with the Ekimas.
You know, the vibes never change, guys. So today we're discussing everything about property when it comes to marriage, before,
during, and after marriage.
After marriage. And after marriage, when we mean after marriage, we mean divorce, we mean death. So those are the things we're discussing today.
Yes.
And if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe.
etc.
etc.
So we're going to be discussing when you die, or when your spouse dies, how do you ensure that you're protected? How do you ensure that people don't come on you?
Yes.
How do you ensure that if you divorce, you don't also lose money? Yeah. In
Very
divorce
important.
matters, you're trying to lose as little money as possible. That's usually the, So yeah, in as much as we're advocates for marriage, we are also lawyers, so we recognize that these things usually happen. The goal is happily ever after, until death do us part. And if you've watched our videos, that is what we advocate for. But there are people who end up in divorce, there are marriages that end up in divorce. So how do you ensure that you do not end up losing twice, your money and the marriage? So stay tuned for the full video.
Okay. So we did a poll on Instagram, and people had some questions they had to ask. Maybe if you can read
that question.
One of those questions, so that we hit directly.
So first of all, this came as a result of the recent decision that talked about, contribution. NGOs and everyone was making noise about, will they evaluate me as the same way they would evaluate a maid in terms of contribution? So these questions came as a result of that. The first question is, if I am married to someone and tomorrow I am divorced, we have built our property together, what becomes of my property? Or how do I ensure that I protect myself? That was one of the questions that came out.
Okay. One is that
and maybe first to hint on the case that the decision that came out that talked a lot about contribution and caused chaos.
Chaos, yes.
Yeah, maybe to also demystify it, and then we can answer this question.
Okay, well, one, before, since we are married Christian couple, and lawyers as well. So fun and interesting. But the most important point is that we have to go back to Genesis. I think Genesis 2:24, where the Bible says the man will leave his father, mother, and family and go and live with the woman, and they become one. That's where the thing is. Become one. Whatever belongs to you belongs to me. It becomes ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the equality kind of thing came up, that, okay, what you own, what I own is 50-50. It's for both of us. So that's where, in case of anything, we are one. We are one. But down to our laws in Uganda, here there's a decision. Hope Julius Ramirome, Supreme Court Ramirome decision, which brought about the distribution of property and all that. So of course, it set out various categories of properties that we shall talk about. Is one, property acquired before we got married. Does that form part of our marriage? And
that's one of the questions.
And that's one of the questions. I think
we'll address it.
We shall address that. Then two, matrimonial property. Initially, the law was 50-50. When you divorce. That was the position of the law. But the Ramirome case brought in now the contribution, the non-monetary contribution that they will have to look at. We bathed the kids, I took them to school, all those contributions are looked at as contribution towards the matrimonial property. So the contribution issue came in. So the recent decision that caused ruckus really...
Maybe before, is to note is that I think the Rabinumi case as well, and many other cases, what brought in that you must prove that you contributed.
Yeah,
it is
that's
not
true.
enough that we were married.
Yes.
Apart from the house in which we were living in, it it is not enough to show that I am married to you. I have to also show that I contributed.
Yes.
And the extent to which I contributed is what will determine how much I take out. So if you contributed 10%, that is what you're entitled to. If you contributed 0, that is what you're entitled to, whether that was during the marriage or not. Now, you were mentioning about this recent case. I think the misconception also that came in was people assumed that it was this recent case that was decided that brought in the contribution.
Yeah.
But that has been the law from
that has been the position, yes.
way back, and many cases have decided that way. So maybe you can demystify what this new case was talking about. Can my contribution be like a house help and
Yes.
all that?
This recent decision for it's talking about the market value. Actually, let me go into that. The market value. Your contribution is going to be equated by the kind of job. Okay,
The market value.
The market value. If you are bathing the kids and doing house help and cooking and what, then you are equated to. I don't want to use that.
In other words, whatever your contribution, for us to be able to monetize it or to quantify it, we need to look at the equivalent
Yes.
of that service in the job industry.
Yes.
So if it's if you are overseeing a site, then they will look at you, how much would be paid to someone you would bring on board to oversee a site.
Yeah, exactly.
That also means that if you if you are looking after a child, then they will look at childcare services.
Childcare services, yes. So that is how your contribution is quantified when it comes to the recent decision. So that's the difference between. That's what this new decision brought in, quantifying the contribution, but the contribution has always been there as part of it.
And I know they did not also express this that you'll be contributed valued as a maid.
Yes.
So maybe for me, I think this is a call for us to maybe to evolve into how we pay for these childcare services. If you're valuing it at 100,000, then that is how they're going to value it as well. But the 50% contribution that people think this case brought up, the contribution and monetary and non-monetary, that has always been there. That has been the decision. In other words, if you're married to someone, it's not enough that you're just married and so you're entitled to property. No, you must prove, and that has been the decision. Maybe the other question. So the person had asked, what happens to me
when they are
so how do I protect myself?
In case now, when you divorce, as we have already demystified, there are issues that we shall first look at. In case there is property that you acquired before you go to marriage, that property will strictly, of course, be yours. It's not part of the property. The other spouse has no contribution, so that's your property. That's your property. So for now, matrimonial property, that maybe say the home and what, which we have just demystified, the contribution. With the latest decisions, you must quantify the contribution that you, in market value, that you brought into the family. So that also will be looked at.
How do they protect themselves?
How do you protect yourself?
From way before.
I think the best way to protect yourself is that in case matrimonial property, it's going to be property. So we're going to look at the value, which is land. Land, you must register your land. So the best advice I would say is that always register jointly. Two of you.
Ensure your name is on that title.
Ensure that your name is on the title, and that's enough. You don't need to go into a lot of fracas that I cooked. Okay, the contribution that goes into all of that. So I advise married people to make sure that you tell your spouse, please, we bought land. Yes, we bought it. Let's put it in our names. That protects you in the marriage in case of divorce, but also can protect you in case of death. For those who are not married, let me put it that way. For those who are not married, that can end up also protecting you in case one spouse passes on. Survivorship just takes natural course. The person who remains takes on the thing.
So maybe important to note is that just make sure if you contribute, because yes, the law says that they will look at your contribution, and that contribution can even be as simple as I was taking care of the kids while he was doing ABCD. And so many people might want to bank on that, but it's not enough because you'll be asked to prove it. You'll be asked to prove it. But how many of us go into marriage keeping receipts for just in case I will
Just
need
in
to,
case,
you know?
yes.
And you don't want to have to live your life like that,
Yeah, it's
keeping
going to be a
receipts and
police
trying.
kind of
Yeah, so at
marriage.
the end of the day, you have the burden to prove in court. If you can't prove it well, then the property is not yours.
Yeah.
So the real best thing is to ensure that your name is on that
title, yeah.
Otherwise,
That's how you protect yourself.
because in law, if any, whether property or land or whatever, you're owning it jointly, the presumption is that you have 50% interest. So if anything were to happen, court will advise that maybe the property is sold, and then
each person
if
gets
it's 100
50-50.
M, one person will take 50 million and the other. So that's easy. But if you haven't registered, or if someone has been doing, you know, and this is a call that if you are married, please put your
Get your
spouse
name on the title. Very important.
Get your name, but also if you're the party who wants to who do your thing alone, ensure that your spouse is on. That also takes away the fear and living on the edge.
Yeah.
So the other question I think that we can talk about that was asked is, what is your take on doing business with in-laws? This might be a whole other...
Those are hard tables, man. You guys, I personally would advise don't go into it. Don't do business with in-laws. I mean, there are very many things that come with it that you cannot. First of all, there are relations that you have. Then there is also the issue of entitlement. How are you going to stop that entitlement? I mean, you are an in-law. How do you behave when you are an in-law? Today you are the boss at it. So for me, I believe that's a bad investment you can go into with in-laws. It is a source of issues actually. You will have issues. Business issues will turn out to be family issues.
It's very hard to draw the line.
Yeah, it's very hard to draw the line.
What do you guys think? We want to know what you think about this. Do you think you can successfully have a business in which you are doing it with your in-laws? I know that in some, I don't want to say that it cannot succeed. I think some businesses have succeeded. But the question is it easy? I don't think so. Just like family businesses. Family businesses are one thing, then in-law businesses, I feel a whole other dynamic. And the question of property gets even harder.
Yes.
Once, say, someone dies. So if, let's say, you have a business with your family, contributing to it, and then I'm contributing to it, and then later on, God forbid you pass on, and now, and you'd be now at the goodwill of the other people for them to say no, let us keep protecting, especially if you've been putting in your money.
Yes,
it's you would be up to their goodwill actually. That's not to say that there are no in-laws with goodwill. There are very many, but that could also leave you open and hanging, because now then you have to say, oh, I put this amount, I put this.
You may have to prove that indeed you put in the money.
You put in the money.
Depends on you, on the other people, as you've said, baby.
It's the goodwill, but also you open yourself, because I mean there are times when people's property, which are their home, people come for them. How much more are you doing it together with? Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to say no, but I mean, just apply wisdom and pray about it. It's a tricky venture, that I must say. If you're to go into it, what would you advise someone who says, now for me, I am already in? How do you?
If you're already into it, then you must formalize things. That means formalize things, have agreements, have contracts. If it's a company, then it must be registered. There are shares known.
Shares should be in there.
Yes, in case of those articles will reflect whatever succession in case. So just make it formal if you are to go that way. Let it be formal. Yeah.
That is very
formal will save
very
you.
Important. Actually, avoid going into ventures that are not formalized, even with your spouse.
Yes.
I don't know if it's because we are lawyers, but we literally formalize everything we do. It's not that we are trying to put guns on each other. No, it's it's just how things should be. There's a reason why that legal process is put in place for you to utilize. So, but also if at all, for me, I think the mistress, because someone asked, shouldn't we now start hiding our property now that all this case is happening? For me, I think the mistrust comes in when one person wants to register her property and not put the other. But if you decide that every property we own in this marriage will own it jointly and you'll be on the certificate of title, then I feel like those issues don't come in. So the fear comes from even the mistrust that is already existing. But if you trust each other, and if I buy property or we contribute, I am open to him putting his name there, he is open to me putting, then what would be the problem?
Yeah, I think it's...
But where one person wants to not put you, then now the other person will feel like, even me, I think I need to start having my own property and put myself alone.
Yeah, but also this calls for just what you've just adding on is that ladies have this in Luganda say send kazi. You want to have send kazi, so you want to protect your money. So you find that the man will go and buy land for you, you're saying send kazi.
You don't want to put anything, contribute to that.
But you want your name to appear. I mean, sure, cause where your name should also be appearing on the title. So we're not saying, of course, you look at each other and you weigh. But still bring any contribution. Any contribution is good to something. If the man has bought the land, come and say, hey, yes, how much does it take to register the land?
Let me pay.
We are all on the title together. I mean that you're moving together as a group. But not you women keeping quiet.
The courts will come in and they will give you that contribution that you put, which was zero.
And then you will start crying. So I believe
my ladies. So I mean this is quite an interesting discussion. And also don't put yourself at the mercy of contribute and also ensure that you are on the title. And by the way, even if you're doing contribution of staying at home, like we said, staying at home, all those things are looked at as non-monetary. But the problem is that you have to prove them.
Yes.
Now, it's easy to prove when you have receipts, but who's going to be keeping receipts?
We're going to keep receipts for 20 years, 30 years.
Who's going to prove that I was at home actually for the first 5 years of my kids? All those things are difficult to prove. The only way to make it easy for court and for yourself is to just have your name on that certificate. If you take nothing out of this, please take that you should have your name on that certificate. But above all, marriage should not be a place where we go with guns blazing. Trust each other. Just ensure that you follow the legal processes.
Maybe the other question that was asked was the question about a person was saying that the father and mother married through customary, but it was not registered. 20 years ago, it was not registered. So she's saying in the event that the father passed on, is the mother protected?
One is that, so there are two, the general rule is that if you're not married, you are not protected. It doesn't matter whether you've been together for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You are not protected in the sense of the marriage protection that is there for married people.
You're not a wife.
Yeah, you're not a wife in the strict sense. And so even if they've been married for 20 years and they have kids, property upon someone's death, the people who are absolutely always entitled are kids and then wife. But if you are not a wife in that typical definition of what a wife is, the legal definition, then you would not be entitled to anything. So even as they apply for letters of administration, the family members could choose, let me be the one to apply, and they would be rightly doing so. That's if the father dies intestate without a will. If he dies with a will, that is easier, so he can include her in his will. Actually, that would be the advisable thing for him to do, or actually to just go and register that marriage. Maybe we need to also talk about, because I think the person asked, it was a cultural function, but it was never registered. So maybe you can talk about that, the different types of marriage and what makes a kuchala or a kuhinjira a marriage.
So the different we have of course the civil marriage, which where you go to civil court, that's USB. Then we have the church marriage, you have the Hindu, we have the Mohammedan Act, we have the African one, so which customary one. So the customary, what makes it a marriage is not the function in itself, is the registration. You must register it. at either the sub-county, you go and register it so that it's recognized as customary marriage. So
and
that's
then
what
it's taken to your RSB.
Yeah, and then it's taken to your RSB to record. So that's what makes it a marriage. So just a mere kuyinjira without kuyinjira or introduction or what, without a certificate or without registering the marriage, then it's not a marriage. Yes, so in that sense you are not qualified to be called a wife.
Yeah, but there have been some interesting decisions that have come up about that, and I think we're seeing a move saying, otherwise we also want to get your comments, you guys, what you think about people who have been together for 20 years. Should it be marriage or not? What have the recent decisions? Yeah,
maybe to put context to that is that one is it's not marriage. Me personally, let me speak. That one I will not speak for my wife, but I believe we hold the same position. We believe in marriage. Yeah, we believe in marriage, and that's our sole institution. But there are recent decisions that have come out and are saying that if you've stayed for 25 years, the first one that came out was the Chigongo case. They also did customary, like the friend who asked us, but the marriage was not registered. So court looked at the fact that they have been together for 25 years. She was using his name. They never objected. They were staying together in the same house. They produced kids and what. So court decided to say that, okay, this was looked at as marriage. They were staying together. However, that decision is on appeal. So
and it's again it's different from what the
it's
law
an
says.
exception. Yeah,
it says it's different from what the act.
Yes.
Remember the hierarchy.
Yes.
That the acts supersede.
Yes.
So yeah.
Then there's also now recent 2022 decision also that came out, and for them they call it constructive marriage, whereby they had also stayed for 25 years, had kids, but they were never married. So the court called it constructive marriage, that the fact that they were together, living together and all that, they considered it to be married. So those are the two decisions that are out there, but you will not want to have your back onto those two exceptions. One is on appeal, and then so maybe,
and they are contradicting what the acts say.
They contradict what the law say.
Yeah. So I would want to know what you guys think. Do you think people should be called married after a certain time of cohabiting, or do you think this is just going to be another way of trivializing the marriage institution? If you ask me, for me, I think actually I agree with you, baby, that we reach at a point where people don't see the point of marrying because they're like, either way, and then even you as the lady, you won't push for that wedding or that that marriage because you're like, now marriage is being recognized, but who tells you that you'll be together for that number of years? We don't know if the law will be revised to say 15, 20, 25. We don't know the years they'll put, but it will definitely be a very long time. So who tells you that you'll be with that person for that long? Or who says that that person won't have died by then?
And you don't want to be, you don't want to be on the thread on that. Your life is on an edge, and I want a personal advocate for marriage. Please, there are forms of marriage. If you want to have very many women go through African marriage, I advocate for church marriage. Go and marry you. So whichever you choose, I mean, they are there. So
yep. So the other question I think that came up was to do with this person says we've been married, so we've been together, still cohabiting. They have put their money together, bought property, and now they're going out their separate ways.
And they are married?
No, they've been together, cohabiting, probably with kids. They've been putting their money together. They've bought property, they have a home, so now that they are going their separate ways, how will court deal with them? The property, how will they deal with that property?
One is that, of course, as we have already said, that you're not married, so you will not, but now you can only go for, you can quantify what you have, that this is my property. You may end up just going for what you've got. I don't want to call it contribution. What you bought, if it's land, I mean, for land's case, is the person who's on the title, the law says that it's conclusive evidence. So that one will take the land, even if you put in your money. So that one is a bit tricky. Yeah,
the whole prison, I like that actually what you say. For court even going to asking, what did you contribute? What? you have to be married. So
Yeah.
if you're not married, they look at you the way they would look at a friend
Yeah.
who owned property with another friend.
With another person, yes, that's
Yes,
true.
so we can't start saying, oh, did you contribute? Especially if there's a title. When someone has their title and the title is in their names, that's conclusive evidence of ownership. Yeah. So in that case, if you're in that arrangement, just make sure your property is
Joint.
or if you buy the land and it's yours alone, just put it in your names,
Yours,
or make sure all of your name is in that title.
Yeah.
The other question was about property before marriage. Will my property that I acquired before marriage be clamped up in all this? But I think you hinted on that.
Yeah, I think I did hint on that. The question is, your property that you acquired before marriage, it's your property.
It's your property.
It's not part of...
Yeah. So that is how the law defines it.
Yes, unless the person wants to bring you on board, but it's your property, so you are safe.
Or you are not safe if the property is for the other person. I don't know if it's called not being safe, but if it's the other person's property, then don't be thinking you're entitled to it upon divorce. No, you're not, because they had it before you.
Yeah.
Maybe I wanted us to talk about this whole, there's been decisions that have come up about the length of marriage. If cohabiting, let's say we've been together 20, 30 years, the general rule or what the law has been and is that the wife is not entitled, and it's not a marriage.
It's not a marriage.
That is what that. So in law, acts of parliament take precedence over court decisions. So it says you are not married. If a wife is not married within the laws,
within the confines of the law,
you're not a wife if you're not married within the 5 categories that you mentioned. So if not for anything, cover yourselves, register your interests for purposes of just in case something happens.
Normalize going
Your
to
kids
contracts.
should not struggle.
Yeah.
I think we've come to the end.
Okay, till next time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. See you
Much
guys.
love.